So, hey guys, it's Blossom here with another My Hero Academia What If video, and today we are going to be doing part 3 of What If Deku was Iron Man. So, Deku lands in the tunnel where he'd met All Might not long before. All Might's coughing up blood and he's in awful shape in general. His overuse of One For All is causing him to revert to his small Might form, and he does it as soon as they'd landed. After Deku processes the shock of the situation, you can kind of fill in the shock, dumb reaction that fanboying Deku has in his suit of armor, asking, you're not All Might, blah 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 blah, but continuing, after he resolves that, he asks All Might, how did this happen? And All Might shows him the injury. It's from this little known story. The toxic chainsaw fight is most people's first guess, but you're smart enough to know that I took him down fairly easily. This was against the biggest threat our new world has ever seen. I can't go into the details with you, but it left me with this wound and no doctor alive has managed to fix it yet. All Might pulls up his shirt, revealing a messy purple swathe of deformed flesh splattered onto the right side of his rib, swirling around in a mess of scars and botched surgeries. How are you still able to do hero work? You really can't push yourself that hard in a state like that. You'll drop dead, explained a worried Deku. Don't worry, young Midoriya. I can only use my true form fleetingly for public appearances and a little bit of hero work. It takes a lot out of me. Honestly, I think that incident's shortened the time I can even be a hero, let alone the time I can maintain this form without bleeding internally. All Might sighs. I'm looking for a successor for this reason. Deku's confused. All Might explains that the way his quirk is passed down is by passing his genetic matter onto someone. He, gives a strand of his hair and suddenly someone else becomes the next user of One For All. Deku deduces how One For All functions from this and tries to explain it back to All Might. So wait, you need a successor because your injuries prevent you from using the full extent of your power. So if you somehow regained your strength, then you could keep One For All and you wouldn't have to pass it on. You could go back to your old self without doing that whole weird blood vomit thingy, which, by the way, can you stop showing me that form you're getting blood on the rust bucket? All Might transforms and gives a thumbs up before deflating in this kind of disgusting show, blood spraying from his mouth, and Deku, as fanboy he is a little bit annoyed and a little bit grossed out. Keep this a secret, will you, kid? I'd rather the world keeps their symbol of peace. I initially thought maybe you could be my successor, and you're a fine candidate, but your quirk seems to synergize very well with you already. You're #1 hero material, and the world could use more than one powerhouse on the side of justice. If the world could have 2 #1 heroes, I'm all for it. And that's why my recommended choice of successor isn't currently being trained by me as we speak. Yeah, I can see 2 heroes are better than 1. Kind of like how I have 2 brains and that makes me smarter than most people, answers Deku. A look of worry on his face washes over. I think I know someone who could do with a mentor. I think he's a bit hot-headed, but his drive is strong and he's not honestly that bad a guy. Deku gets home that day, and after scheduling a chance, in quotes, encounter before Bakugo and All Might, he plugs himself into his computer and gets researching biology. I've never been a big fan of it, but now's as good a time as any to get myself acquainted with some of the juicy stuff. Deku instantly regrets his choice of words as a vivid image of All Might's grotesque injury flashes through his mind. On second thought, let's call it getting rid of that specific juicy thing, Hours of researching everything he could find on biology seemed to result in nothing of use at all being dug up. He researched medicinal papers, biological papers, but what got him onto the right path was something quite unexpected. A link leading to an academic paper from the early 21st century on stem cell therapy held the key to what Deku was looking for. Combined with some genetic engineering, the paper hypothesized that producing undifferentiated stem cells could technically go ahead and heal almost any injury. Deku goes ahead and deduces that if he could take some specialized bacterium that consume dead scar tissue, one could heal almost any injury as the stem cells start to specialize to form the required tissue to regenerate the patient's body. A lead. And a good one at that. Deku jumps onto the lead and spends the following weeks modifying some of his tools for genetic engineering and surgical purposes. After consulting with some professors that he knows at the local university he was in contact with, Deku obtains permission to use their research laboratories. "Let's get started," Deku says as he cracks his fingers before pushing the button on their biological 3D printer, the schematics for what he needs inputted. A few more weeks pass and the stem cells and bacteria are all cryopreserved, ready to be used to heal All Might. Deku's test on lab mice had proven successful, and he patented the technology under the alias of iron medicines, due to the procedure requiring a substantial amount of iron to create large volumes of synthetic blood to replace the blood that's not already in the body. Deku's product is almost ready to launch, but his final hurdle is a clinical trial. A young man, around the same age as Deku, walks into the laboratory, his arms contorted at a weird angle. One of the researchers introduces him. This is Kane. He was attacked by a villain and he narrowly survived. He's incurable by any of the other technologies we've tried, and this is his last hope to ever be normal again. He'll be a part of your clinical trial, so treat him well. Deku lays him down in a tank of disinfecting solution to prepare him for the procedure, and pulls out a needle to take a sample of the boy's blood. After copying the DNA into the required volume of stem cells, and also programming the bacterium to devour his dead cells, he prepares the vat full of the stem cells and bacterium to destroy the scar tissue and regenerate him. He calms Kane down. "Don't worry, I'm pretty sure this will heal you." Kane responds worried. "Isn't this your first clinical trial? I mean, probably, I don't know. I just want to be able to go back to playing video games, man. I really don't know." Deku calms him down and sighs. He inserts the needle into Kane's arm. A noticeable change occurs almost immediately. The scar tissue just slowly disappears, with thread-like strands. It's really odd to watch, thinks Deku. I didn't expect this. It wasn't the same with lab mice. But slowly, these strands turn into skin, cartilage, muscle fibers, forming as the cells grow into their previous position and specialize into the correct positions and correct cells. It's surprising to Deku, it's surprising to Kane, and it's surprising to the researchers that it would work so efficiently and without any sort of complications yet. The muscle fibers form and the cartilage is formed in the correct angle and the correct shape, the bones forming almost perfectly. The arm, about an hour in, has actually started to form its shape. It's amazing to watch for everyone, as his arm literally reconstructs itself from scratch, bit by bit getting larger and back to its original self. 5 more hours pass and the procedure is complete. Kane's new arm's still extremely weak and needs time for the bones to form from the cartilage. However, Deku has this covered. He injects the newly formed veins in his arm, which have started to set into the correct shape. He injects them with a protein and some extra help, essentially, to harden the bones back from cartilage into actual bone tissue. And after a couple more hours, just as the sun's setting, the bones have formed fully. The procedure's almost a complete success. Just his arm's a little bit weaker than it was before. The clinical trials from then on follow the same tunes, with Kane walking out happy with the procedure and honestly feeling on top of the world now that he's got his life back. Deku, he's really happy with this. He's made a real difference, and he's thinking to himself, is this what it feels like to be a hero? And he's thinking another thought, which is, I hope this works, because if it doesn't work on All Might, then the world's lost its symbol of peace, and there's no getting it back from then. And 20 more life-threatening injuries come in to Deku, and they're healed in much the same way by his miracle procedure. Let's fast forward a bit to the week before the UA entrance exams. Deku heads to the beach and sees a strange sight there. There's someone else with All Might, training themselves by sparring with him and actually keeping up a decent pace. Deku moves closer to get a better view and he sees Bakugo. He's quite happy, as he did recommend Bakugo to All Might, and now he's pretty sure that Bakugo is going to be the next successor of One For All. He analyzes the red lightning coming out of Bakugo, and yeah, it's pretty similar to One For All. Deku smiles, walks up to All Might, and hands him a leaflet. The title of it is Iron Medicines Regeneration Therapy. What's this, young Midoriya? Regeneration therapy? Exclaims All Might in slight shock. Wait, you weren't kidding about finding me a cure, were you? Deku nods at Bakugo, signaling that he'd been borrowing All Might for a bit too long, and now, it's his turn to help All Might out a little bit. So Bakugo just nods back, continues training on his own. He trusts Deku's judgment pretty well, and he considers himself an equal in this timeline. Maybe just a little bit better, but it's Bakugo, so. All Might, he undergoes the treatment, but midway through he starts to cough up blood as his newly forming lung pushes back into its initial place, and the swirling mess of the wound slowly unravels back into shape. 2 days pass with All Might in a medically induced coma, but finally his lungs are scanned and he's shown to be in great shape. He starts to emit a cloud of steam as everything goes back to the normal in his body, and he slowly starts to revert back into his buff form. His medically induced coma is taken off and he's back to normal and awake. He sits up and he looks at Deku. You did it, young Midoriya. You really did bring this old hero back from the dead, didn't you? That's where I'm going to end this episode for this time. There wasn't any fighting or anything, but I felt that this part of the story is very important for this timeline, and I felt like it'd be kind of a shame to waste Deku's intelligence in this timeline and not have him try and help out All Might in a more direct way. Now, sadly, All Might already did give away his one-for-all power to Bakugo, but, it's for the best, I guess, because now they've got All Might and he's continuing to maintain his buff form forever. He no longer has to strain himself to use it, and he might be a little bit weaker because he's given away one for all, but he's still All Might, and now he's got himself a successor as well, and arguably quite a good one in this timeline. Some people might say that Bakugo is a little bit hot-headed, maybe he's not suitable for it, but honestly, I'd say that in this timeline, considering he's had, a rival, he's not continuously been the best, he hasn't been told by everyone that he's untouchable, he's had Deku as this constant reminder that he can't be the best at everything, and I think that's made him a much more well-rounded person, and actually pretty suitable to taking on this role as the #1 hero eventually. So, yeah, that's my justification for kind of giving Bakugo one for all in this one. Plus, I think it's nice to kind of have it being given to someone. If I gave it to Deku, I think the whole Iron Man thing would be a little bit just almost irrelevant to some extent. Maybe he could use it to act as almost like the arc reactor would, but I guess this works just as well because, Bakugo continuing on and having one for all means that he can keep up with Deku's, enhanced development through his intelligence and whatever else he comes up with. Maybe he'll be on top of him for a while, and maybe Deku will come back. Maybe they'll have this, on top of the other relationship, but who knows? Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys liked it, then, leave it a like. If you disliked it, then leave a comment, maybe leave a dislike if you really disliked it, because, those dislikes, they help me understand what I can improve, especially if you leave some constructive criticism. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe, share the video with friends if you feel like it was interesting enough. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye guys.